Welcome to Cut and Splice. This is Gil,
And Matt,
And this is Jason.
and today we're going to be talking about Edgar Wright's latest movie, Last Night in Soho. We don't tend to do movies that are very recent, aside from our special Oscar episode. But I happened to catch this movie, and I'm sure I'm going to get shit for this, but on a plane, traveling, and because I just didn't get a chance to catch it when it was out in theaters. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a big departure for him. I kind of knew that it was gonna be. I just didn't know how far it would go. I heard some things about horror movie this, horror movie that, and that was a little bit off-putting. But I was glad to see that it wasn't really that. And I remember that Matt, you actually said that when you first saw it, like that you would highly recommend it because you saw it before the two of us did. Um, Jason, when did you get a chance to catch it?
Probably the second week that it was in theaters.
Oh, okay, so pretty close to. Cool. And what was your reaction? Was it as positive as Matt's was?
I don't remember what Matt's reaction was. I remember him saying he liked it, but I don't remember if he thought it was great or whatever. But I, what did I think about this movie? I really liked it, but I think I thought I was gonna like it more. Like I looked at the trailer and I was just like really blown away by it, and I don't think I've ever been disappointed by an Edgar Wright movie, and I wouldn't even say I was disappointed by this movie. I had a certain expectation and it didn't quite hit it, you know. So I do think a lot of his other movies are better, and obviously we can go into that later. But I definitely liked it. I just didn't, you know, I didn't love it as much as I'd hoped I would.
That's interesting, actually. And Matt, I guess maybe you can verbalize more. So, what was your reaction when you saw it?
well, first of all, I saw it opening night and then three more times. So how dare you see it on a plane? No,
Yeah.
I did see it opening night. I didn't see it three more times in theaters. But no, um, I mean, the funny thing is, I will say that it's one of those things where when I saw the trailer, I kind of had the same experience watching the trailer as I had to like seeing the trailer for Match Point, where it's like, oh, this is going to be this thing. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. And then, with Match Point, it comes up from director Woody Allen. I'm like, really? Woody Allen? uh,
Oh, I see
and
what you mean.
uh, and making this dramatic, brutish kind of movie. Last Night in Soho, you're so used to Edgar Wright with Scott Pilgrim and uh Hot Fuzz, which I still think is my favorite comedy of recent years. I mean, that movie just still makes me bust a gut even though I know when every joke is coming. uh you know him from all of these movies, and then there's just kind of this dark tone for it, and then you slide in there, and this is directed by Edgar Wright. I mean, I can't really tell you whether or not this movie met any expectations because I didn't really know what to expect. I it's this guy who is kind of irreverent and funny, and like was at one point supposed to direct Ant-Man and probably should have, incidentally. And you've got something that I mean, again, it's wrong to call it a horror movie. It's even wrong to call it a horror-ish movie. It's just kind of it screws with your brain, and it has a lot of creepy elements to it, but it also has a lot of uh, you know uh, optimism and beauty to it. So I can't tell you whether or not it met or exceeded or didn't meet my expectations because I didn't really know what my expectations were. I can just tell you that I freaking loved it.
Yeah, no, I think that's why I felt like it was worthy of doing an episode about it, even though it hasn't stood the test of time yet, because I actually do feel that it would stand the test of time. I feel like this movie, if nothing else, because of Edgar Wright's filmography, I do feel like this would, for one thing, stand out, but I'm sure it's not going to be the only one of his that's going to go in a different direction. But I feel like it was a very admirable attempt at something that's not easy to pull off, which was basically, and this is kind of funny because at the time of watching this, there was this whole news circling a few weeks ago about there's a new David Lynch movie, and then we found out that it was just that he was remastering Inland Empire, and they're gonna screen it at Cannes or something. And then I'm watching this movie, it's like, oh, here's that David Lynch movie. It's just that he didn't make it. Like it's basically Edgar Wright making a David Lynch movie, only it's not David Lynch, it's him, but it's got touches of it. It's basically Mulholland Drive, at least as far as the premise. It's about a girl from a small town coming to the big city to try and make it. And it's very refreshing that it's in England, so it's not the whole Hollywood story. So that was already like an interesting take. But pretty much the twists and turns, it's I guess you would consider Mulholland Drive a horror movie, but it's more mystery. It's more drama, mystery, supernatural, that type of stuff, which is very Lynchian. And I was like, wow, this is cool stuff. Even if it's not a home run, just the fact that he went out on a limb like this and thought that he would have the sensitivity to the material and to pull it off dramatically, because I mean, what's the most serious thing that he's done? I mean, it was Baby Driver. It was kind of like a joke movie.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about that movie, even though it was really well made. But here he really took a leap, and he didn't crash. He didn't crash and burn. He actually he held his own, which is what I appreciated about it more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the whole rating thing, because I think there's something to what Jason is saying, and maybe it is just expectations. I had zero expectations. That's how I try to go to most movies. But it was Edgar Wright, so I was gonna have some. But because it's not a comedy, I can't compare it to any of his movies. So it's definitely
Why
his
not?
best movie that's not a comedy, right?
Why can't you compare it to his other movies?
No, because it's not a comedy. Like I can't say this was as funny as such and such movie or as clever as such and such movie. This is his best mystery drama Lynchian movie because it's his only one. And I would still rank it pretty high in his movies, much higher than Jason, most likely. But yeah, with the ratings, I was like, yeah, maybe it's like a 7, maybe, but I really think it's slightly better than average for what this is. It's not a Mulholland Drive because that's a 10 for me, but or 9, but I think I would give it an 8 just because of the Edgar Wright touches. I think it's a better than average mystery drama. I think this could have been a train wreck with half of the directors in the world.
I definitely agree with that. I think I'd put it at a very solid 7, maybe 7.5. I need to see it again, like at home, like not with the um, not with the whole movie theater atmosphere and everything. But I feel like it's probably a 7 for me.
I mean, this is an easy 8 for me. Maybe better. I mean, when you combine the ambition, the talent of just about everybody involved, the like just a visual masterpiece of it. Um, I mean, it's hard for me to go beneath an 8. I mean, I would have to. Yeah, it's an 8 or above. The funny thing is, this is a movie that I would classify as being visually designed so well that you can even include the cast in the visual design aspect of the movie. I mean, the cast is all really good in terms of performances, but I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here, but I know that Anya
Shocking.
Taylor. Okay, I know that Anya Taylor-Joy is already a respected actress, and that she has polls, she has influence, and so on and so forth. I still think that she's underrated. I mean, she's a really, really strong actor. She has so many talents, and but still, bottom line, her freaking face is just amazing. I mean, like, there is no way that you can photograph that face. I mean, you would have to be a complete schmuck of a cinematographer or a photographer or a lighting designer to shoot her and not make an interesting photo. She has one of the most interesting and simultaneously beautiful faces I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's on top of the fact that she's actually really good. She's actually giving you a good performance in the movie. She's just part of. She's also part of the set design. She's just she just fits perfectly. Matt Smith is kind of that perfect combination of he's kind of ugly, but for some women, for some reason, he does it too. Does it for them? He just kind of
He's definitely very squinty-eyed. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, I I mean the cast is great. The production design is brilliant, and also the fact that they did so much. Um, I reread the American Cinematographer article on this. Uh, a lot of the mirror shots were done practically, where they actually just built mirror sets side by side, and they just creatively moved like mirrors out, when they would pan away for a moment. So, like when, sorry, Sandy looks away for a second after seeing her reflection, then looks back. They just pulled the mirror out, and she's looking at Ellie in the mirror set. So,
Yeah, I
it's
was reading that they used a lot of twins or they used
yeah,
twins and they used double sets and all sorts of cool stuff.
yeah, and it's so seamless. It's just so well done, and uh, I mean, you actually kind of have to be a nerd to be looking at the movie and thinking, "Oh wow, how did they do that?"
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's just wow, creepy. I don't know. Maybe a nerd can come in and say, "Oh, I'm not a nerd, and I was still wondering how they did that." But it just seems so seamless to me that
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I can say that I'm a nerd to some degree, and I didn't wonder too much how they did that, because whether it's like warned mirrors and they're just matching movement, or they just did it digitally, it's so easy to do that in so many ways. And if they chose to do it the hard way, then good on them. But I'm not surprised by anything I see in movies. But I am still surprised by the device, because if I see something that hasn't been done before to that extent, like the whole thing with the reflections, which I guess we shouldn't go too much into in case people that haven't seen it want to just listen to a review first. Yeah, it's
Yes.
like there's some really clever stuff in there for sure. It's because the guy's clever. Edgar Wright, for like he can shoot whatever the fuck he wants and make it really good. Like I'm editing an episode where I brought up the Mount Rushmore of modern technical geniuses that to me is like Spielberg, Fincher, Nolan, and maybe Denis Villeneuve. But I gotta give Edgar Wright like an honorable mention there. Like he can shoot a bad scene. Like he just knows how to shoot a scene.
yeah,
He just has it. Like
Yeah.
and hopefully he's only gonna grow from this, because I do think that he's got potential. I don't want him to stop making comedies, but it's actually kind of cool that he can flex that muscle and do. I mean, a lot of comedy directors end up doing serious movies that work out. So maybe you can go even one step further on the next one and then do a comedy. That's fine too. But you can basically, the point is, he can do whatever he wants really well. So he should do whatever, you know, suits his
Yeah.
mood. I will say I was also a fan as far as like casting. General Zod is the good performance. Terrence Stamp as
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
the old gentleman. Yeah, they're going into spoilers. So I guess we need to bridge the gap between Jason and Matt. So so yeah, well, what was any specifics, Jason's that like rub you the wrong way as far as the plot wise or twists and turns?
I think it has less to do with what the actual movie did and more to do with my expectations. Before I even say this, I just want to reiterate the fact that I do really like this movie. I'd seen a trailer. I think Matt said that it was really good. I think the only thing I had talked to Matt about was that he said it was like not really a comedy. That's what he had told me. Like it's unlike his other films, it's really not a comedy like much at all. And I was like, okay, well, I'll, keep that in mind, when I'm see the thing or when I'm about to see it or whatever. And I'm sure I rushed out to see it fairly quickly, but I know that the thing that made me go see this movie right away was the first week that it was out or so, right around that time. They put a video out on YouTube to promote the thing. I'm sure it's still up. You can go see it, but it's like a music video basically of Anya Taylor-Joy singing Downtown,
Yeah.
and it's not like in the movie. For all of you who haven't seen this, should go see it right away because look, we're talking about the spoilers now. In the movie, she sings Downtown a cappella, and I don't, Gil, you might know the proper music terminology for this, but like it's basically it's like a cover. Obviously, it's a cover because she didn't originally sing that song, but it's not in the same tempo, I guess. Right? Is that the right way to put it? It's like slower. She's like
Oh,
singing. It's not just that it's a cappella. She's singing it in a very different manner
yeah,
than.
it's a different yeah, like version of it for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's the tempo or the key that it's sung
It's
in.
probably a number of things, but in the movie, there's an incredible scene basically where she's brought up on stage to uh, audition, I guess you could say, and it's one of those, it's one of those Eminem 8 Mile moments. This is it. She's got to really do it right here, and she knocks it out of the park. She sings the song Downtown, and it's like really soulful and beautiful, and it's totally a cappella.
And by the way,
So
it's her singing it, which because I know in the past, like it was the Jennifer Connelly, the whole thing,
Oh yeah, yeah,
singing with
yeah.
the thing.
Nothing
Remember?
like that at all. Nothing like that
Yeah.
at all. It's 100% her. It's really authentic. It's beautiful, and it's mesmerizing. Well, there's this YouTube video of her singing the song in the same manner, but with a full, not a cappella, with a full, what would you call it, accompaniment of musical instruments and whatnot. And it's like a fully produced song, I guess the better way to put it. And it's her. She's singing into a microphone, and she's kind of slightly dressed up as the character, not entirely, of course, but and then it intercuts with different shots from the movie. And so after watching that video, I was completely mesmerized. This music video is just like unlike anything else. It's like really incredible. And I I was like, I got to see this movie. And they do give away, I wouldn't say they give anything away, but they kind of hint at where the movie's going in this music video, like that it's going to go to a dark place, basically. So I was mentally prepared for this. But long story, not so short. When I watched the movie, it's a movie like Gil said about a young girl going to a big city. She wants to be, I believe, a fashion designer or something like that, and as she starts having these visions of this other girl from the 60s and who's living a very glamorous life and is being swept away by Matt Smith and everything. I mean, not to oversimplify the movie, but there's a good huge chunk of this movie that is just incredible. It's this like incredible fantasy that's like so mesmerizing and so easy to just fall right into. And I knew that at some point it was going to come to an end. I knew that something really bad was going to happen. And it does. It's almost inevitable that it does. But this is one of those movies, for me at least, that even though I knew that something was coming, when the shift happens and it's no longer about the like this, I don't know, when it suddenly becomes when the hammer drops and suddenly she realizes that like where this is going and what's expected of her, and Matt Smith is not the greatest guy that she thought he was, and all these terrible things that start going on. It's a pretty fast spiral, a pretty fast downward, trajectory. And I was pretty ready for it to be really interesting and amazing, and it was good. But where the story goes, I was just basically satisfied with the ending. I didn't love it. And when I say the ending, I don't just mean the end of the film. I mean like basically the whole third act. As we've already said, spoilers. I mean, she starts kind of killing a bunch of people in kind of self-defense, kind of not so self-defense, kind of as a retribution sort of thing. But
almost like a Sweeney Todd thing.
Yeah, like
and
that.
It's in London.
Like yeah. Something about those British stories, I guess.
Yeah.
No cannibalism, though.
No cannibalism in this one. But yeah, just I didn't dislike where the story goes. I just had expectations that it would be a little more fantastic, I guess. And I felt that the direction it goes in was adequate, but I mean, how many movies have there been about people? It doesn't even have to be in the music industry, although sadly, that is such a common thing in the music industry that we've all seen so much of it. It doesn't have to be directly what happens to her, like exactly what happens to her, but like, where there's this rising talent, and then because of a manager or an agent or somebody starts taking advantage of that person in some way, shape, or form, whether it's stealing money or they get hooked on something or some sort of terrible lifestyle choices or whatever. I mean, it's just like, it just seems like, I guess I was frustrated because it went in a direction that I kind of hoped it wouldn't have, I guess. And I was okay with the ending because it was well done and I didn't hate it. I just had hoped it would have been more. I had hoped that it would have been something a little more fascinating, I guess. And that's my only thing. And even though I put it near the bottom of the list of his films, I still don't think he's made a bad movie, and I still really like this movie. It's just, that's kind of, I guess, where my frustration with it comes from.
Yeah, so maybe I'll verbalize a little bit of maybe what potentially is an issue there towards the end, and maybe Matt could respond.
Yeah.
Like if he has an answer for it. But the main issue with the logic of the movie is that at the bottom, her mother went crazy. She had mental issues, the mother of the lead character, and she inherited those same mental issues. And that's why she wasn't sure if it was her or something else was going on. And as the movie progresses, it seems like what it is that it's a ghost story, or at least some sort of supernatural thing, that if she stays in the room where a lot of these killings happen, and she discovers in the end, of course, that it's the lady downstairs, the old lady that was her, that was the young girl from the visions. which I liked all that stuff, but the logic is problematic because basically what you're saying is in the end is that it was a supernatural movie, like say like The Shining or something, where the ghosts of the past connected to her in some sort of like telekinesis, like like they communicated through her body, send these messages because the woman didn't give her anything, and there was no hints that she could detect. It was basically the past, the ghosts of the past were making a connection with her and telling her, please tell our story, like please stop this woman. But they had to tell it to her through visions and through dreams, like nightly dreams, and it became like a little bit of a detective story in a way. So and there's a problem there, like that's so is that what it is? Because Mulholland Drive is a dream, so it totally makes sense, which is why it's a perfect movie. But there is an issue with the logic here, but if you can accept it as a supernatural fantastical movie, then it's fun. And maybe that's why it's not a 9 for me. It's that's the only main issue that I have with it. There's like so the logic doesn't make sense as a real story. It's a supernatural movie, and I guess that's okay. But for some reason it bothers me. Like what I like about The Shining is that the ghosts are not the problem. The alcoholic dad is the problem.
Mm.
That's what's cool
Yeah.
about The Shining. And I felt like in this movie, it's not the same payoff.
Yeah.
It's supernatural, and it's supernatural all the way pretty much in the end. And I guess because she had the mental issues, which are more real life issues, she was able to connect with them. But it's just it's more fun, less consequential, I guess I would say. But the reason why I liked it so much myself is that the ride was so enjoyable
Mm.
that I forgave the ending for having that glitch or that approach. It's not that it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with making a supernatural movie.
Yeah.
Most horror movies are supernatural. It's just that it pretended not to be that for so long, only to twist it in the end. You know, that's what bothered me about it. And I don't know. What about you, Matt? Like, did it matter to you as much there?
Uh, I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of got a sense from the actually, one thing, Gil, that you were saying it, and it may have just been your phrasing, maybe not what you meant. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. That her connection to ghosts were a result of her psychological problems. I viewed it as she has a connection to ghosts, and therefore she has psychological problems.
Hmm.
Oh, that maybe no, because I was saying that she inherited her mother's schizophrenia or whatever issues that she had, and so she has like this tendency to see visions. Because the thing is that a lot of people have stayed in that room over the years. I
Yeah.
believe so, at least it seems like. But she's the first one that the ghosts were able to connect with because she shines. It's kind of like The Shining. Because
Ah,
she's
okay.
It's
got,
like the
I
Sixth
understand.
Sense.
yeah, she's got this like she's got this ability. She's connected to this part of her brain that has enabled her to see certain frequencies, like having hallucinations about her mother being in the mirror but not being there.
Yeah.
That enables her to see the visions that the
Uh,
ghosts are sending her.
okay. So maybe we're talking about a chicken or the egg thing, where like
It
you
made
know,
it worse. It for sure. That's what the ghosts in
yeah,
The Shining do. Is they make
right.
Jack worse, but the
Yeah.
alcohol was needed to be there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can speak from experience there. But I never tried to axe anybody. But uh,
That you
no, I mean,
remember.
Well, specifically
yeah,
there, they actually are the ones who give him the alcohol, the ghosts. So,
Oh,
right.
that's true. Yeah.
yeah.
Damn
Yeah.
enablers.
The thing is, like, so much of the story is, what I found really interesting about it is that, and especially with the motifs with the mirrors, is that Sandy is the perfect example of she shows up and everybody's looking at her. I mean, it takes her like all of 30-45 seconds in one of the fanciest places in London to get the attention of somebody, to start her on the path that she thinks that she wants to be on. And then Ellie is the exact opposite. The exact opposite.
Hmm.
Shows up and everything is fucked up immediately. And their stories are kind of mirror images that come to an impasse. And I mean, it's and at the same time, it's almost a weird, 2-hour long exploration of the whole concept of, the casting couch and what it is to be a woman in entertainment. But it manages to do that without going down a really preachy path. And I really
Good
appreciate that
point.
aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, uh, because, I mean, even though Ellie, at the beginning of the movie, uh, isn't portrayed as being like this it girl like Sandy is, she's still got the cab driver who's like, "Oh, you're a model. Oh, well, you've got the legs for it. You might have found your first stalker," and everything. You establish that, but still Ellie is entering this world, uh, not wanting that attention, not wanting, and anything that she does want, she's not getting. Anything that she,
Is getting
yeah,
doesn't want.
right, and for Sandy, it's almost the exact opposite. They intertwine, they intersect, and then by the end of the film, Ellie does kind of get what she wants. But I think the what we finally get with the ending is that Ellie manages to kind of find this balance of, okay, actually, backtracking a bit, there's a really powerful aspect of just the concept of trust in the movie. And I mean, Ellie comes in with a certain healthy amount of skepticism because she's been told all the time, there are a lot of bad people in London. And, what's his face? Jack and John, the two most important characters in the movie, and, two most generic names in cinema. But, John's a cool guy. He's a genuinely nice guy. He's just trying to be, he's trying to be helpful all he can be. And she's always skeptical of him. Sandy meets Jack. Jack seems like, the cool guy who's going to stand up for her and everything like that. And he turns out to be a complete dickhole. Uh, and so at the end of the movie, I think that there's this culmination with Ellie where she has this. She finally understands how to balance trust in human beings, to a certain extent. Where when she sees Sandy's reflection in the mirror and touches fingers with her, and that's the end of the movie. To me, that just kind of says, like, this is where my lessons from Sandy and my lessons from my own life come together into where I can actually start to judge how to interact with the people around me.
Hmm.
But I might have read too much into that. But anyway.
No, I think that's definitely all there. It's obviously, and it's good to point out that Anya Taylor-Joy, like you said, it was a very charismatic performance. But in those moments when she starts to be eaten alive by, she ends up being like a supporting cast and the dancing girls and stuff,
Yes.
like her performance is really good there. You see how her soul has been sucked out of her, like all
Yeah.
that confidence and energy that she had, that like, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna be a big star, all of a sudden, slowly but surely, like her confidence drops.
Yeah.
And obviously Ellie learns from that. Like she feels for her, but she also, it's a learning experience for sure. So it's all a reflection of what she's going through, just not one for one. It's not the exact same circumstances, but it's
Right.
coming to the big city and trying to be cautiously optimistic or cautiously confident, like thinking that you're gonna make it, but ultimately, yeah, you just need to learn to trust more than anything, because she does trust John in the end. Takes her a while, and he seems like the most trust. That's what I like, that the black guy is the most trustworthy person here. I love that. Like, I love that character. It's such a British nerdy black
Yeah.
guy. It's that's, if you want to talk anti-racism, this is it. That's the way you make a black character. Like it just it's almost like an it's, you almost forget that he's black. He's just a character. But because American movies and all that, and politics in the U.S., like we see it from that. But if you're like a British person watching this movie, you know this guy. He's like the nerdy guy at the just. He just happens to have black complexion, but he looks so trustworthy. It's amazing that she doesn't trust him right away. But I guess that's a good idea, because she was burned by the snobbish girls and stuff, the backstabbing girls. So you don't know who to trust. That's all good touches for sure. I don't know why the whole supernatural thing bothers me as much as it does. Not too much. I mean, I like the movie, but yeah, I'm actually surprised the critics are not big fans of it. Some rated it pretty high, but yeah, it seems like a lot of people. Yeah, see, like one critic here says, like, it soars at the beginning only to crash in the end. It's a broken promise. That's part of what I was, maybe they're talking about, that, like, the fact that it comes across as her gonna have a mental struggle, only to end up becoming a ghost story. Like The Shining, you knew right away it's a haunted hotel. Like, everybody knows it's a Stephen King novel. Like, it's all like upfront. This to me is like, and someday we'll do that episode, is like Sunshine, like where Sunshine was like on the surface, 3/4 of the movie. Oh, this is gonna be like a meditation of, like, on the meaning of light and the sun and life, and no, it's just a monster movie. And then, like, the last 20 minutes, I was like, where the fuck did that come from? So I wonder if with this movie, that's what's going on. Like, that it's like, wait a second. So it was ghosts all along. It wasn't like some
Yeah.
mental thing.
Um, that's kind of how I feel. And Sunshine's a really good example. Just to throw this out there, I don't have a problem with where Sunshine goes. But that's a very good example of the kind of movie that I was trying to think about before when we talked about this. So there's a lot of movies that do that, where they're heading in one direction and they take you in a different direction. And they do that with the geographic location the characters are in, the kind of movie it is, the tone, everything. Just all sorts of different stuff. But sometimes that can be done really, really effectively for a movie, and it's fine. Like, it doesn't hurt the movie in any way. I think One Night in Soho is pretty decent. I just, like I said, I don't like where it goes really, because I loved where it was going so much. Another example other than Sunshine, I think Fight Club kind of does that. I feel like Fight Club is like going in a very steady direction, and just as you're getting used to what's happening with, you're kind of on the ride with the main character through all the Fight Club stuff, and then suddenly this Project Mayhem stuff starts happening, and he's suddenly not privy to what's happening anymore, and he starts asking Tyler Durden, like, what is this? Why did you not consult me on this? And suddenly things escalate really, really quickly in that movie. That one, I think, because of the way that movie ends, that one was kind of done perfectly. But anyway, all I'm getting at is that I think that Sunshine's a good example too. I wrote down World War Z because I kind of hate where that movie goes as well. But uh, I, I I think if I had to narrow down what you're talking about, because to me it felt like there's a part at the beginning where they talk about her being able to kind of communicate with. Do you guys remember? Was it her dead mother or something?
Yeah.
Well, she's having visions. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So
Because she's dead.
they're obviously that yes, the mother's dead, so she's having visions of her dead mother. I just took that as like the sixth sense, basically, that there's ghosts all along and they can communicate with her, like Haley Joel Osment in the Sixth Sense. And so I figured she gets to her college, and almost immediately you find out that the room that she's staying in at one point in time was where this really glamorous chick lived, that's played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and and in a way she's everything that the other girl wishes that she could be, you know. And so you get to go along on this ride, and it's clearly this Anya Taylor-Joy ghost is trying to tell her something almost as a warning, and she's showing her her life, and she's living out her life as if she is that character, and so much so on and so forth. She grows and learns so much, and she goes on this ride and everything. I think the twist that's so weird for me, that puts me off, is finding out that it wasn't her ghost that's speaking to what's the main character's name?
Ellie.
Ellie. Ellie isn't being spoken to by the other girl. You know, she's not. It's not like her mother, or it's not like any of the ghosts in the Sixth Sense. You know, Sandy, which is Anya Taylor-Joy's character, is not speaking to Ellie. It's apparently we find out that Sandy is still technically alive and has managed to had a whole lifetime of killing off all these people who arguably probably needed to die, but that's still not the point. You know, I mean, she's definitely kind of taking things in a really dangerous manner, and it really, taking justice into her own hands in a really kind of bad way, but violent and deadly way. Uh, so it's like, to me, I felt that was weird. That was a weird twist. That it's like, okay, so all these, if I'm understanding that correctly, that that's how the story is supposed to be taken, that she can, everyone else sees it as a psychosis, but for her, it's like she can actually talk to dead people or something. If that's the way it is, then it's weird to me that that the whole movie she's seeing this story through the eyes of this other person, but that person's not even dead. It's almost as if all the ghosts said, "Hey, you need to see this story through her point of view, so you can get why she did the things she did, and you can see it, like you can connect with this person." But that person's not even dead. That's actually the person who needs to be stopped.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it is kind of ironic that she becomes a guide to her, but she's actually the antagonist. And she
Yeah.
even, like, in the end, because I guess in some ways she's not a villain yet. Like, the image of her from the past is before she became
Yes.
the evil
Yeah.
and stuff. So there is some issue there as well, that the antagonist is basically her guide, and who she learns from, but she's also a bad person that needs to be stopped, or at least pay for her sins, or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and also slightly, ever so slightly sympathetic, like a Sweeney Todd, where, like, well, these men are disgusting, so there's like some level of do they deserve it type
Yeah.
of thing.
I think it's definitely something we're meant to question and certainly consider.
It's kind of like that movie Promising Young Woman. I don't know if you guys ever saw that.
I've got it on my queue. I'm so excited to watch it, but I have not had a
Yeah,
chance to sit
it's
down
Yeah,
and
not the
that's
watch it
same
yet.
yeah.
thing. What?
I have not seen that yet. It's
Yeah,
very
it's
high
not
up.
exactly the same, but it's in that vein of like a
Yeah.
woman kind of taking the power back in a way. Um, but yeah, no, it's mostly for me personally, it's flawed. It's just that for some reason I forgave those touches, yeah, because it is a misdirection that she has psychosis, but really she's communicating with the dead. Like it totally seems like psychosis. Like
Yeah.
because also her mom like they hint that she had issues, but it's also hinted that there was mental issues like psychosis and maybe she committed suicide. It's not like, oh, she thought she saw ghosts and eventually she killed herself because she couldn't handle it. No, she just had mental issues and ended her life. So it's a bit of a dishonest misdirection, which I'm definitely not a big fan of. I've spoken in past episodes that I have an issue when movies manipulate the audience too much. But for some reason, in this specific case, because it was all just done really well and very fun, and just basically taking you on this deep Lynchian trip, into the psyche of this woman and this other woman, and what it means to be a woman who's trying to be successful in the world. I felt like it's also a good movie for the time because we're talking about this whole Me Too thing and
Oh,
everything.
it's definitely topical for sure.
Yeah, so I just for that alone, I kind of forgave the misdirections and yeah, that part for some strange reason. Yeah, but I just think it was just exceptionally made. Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like I kind of I feel like by the time I was frustrated, but by the time I was walking out of the theater, I'd more or less forgiven the things that frustrated me about it. I guess, like I said, to not to sum it up too simply, but I kind of had hoped that the movie would take me to a really, really epic, fantastic ending, and what it did was it was adequate. It was a good, it was a decent ending for this movie. I would never have phrased it the way that that person that you read the review was, that it's like, what did it say? It was like, so it started out fantastic and then crashed and burned or something like that.
Yeah, it
Um,
soars the beginning only to crash
Stores.
in the end. It's a broken
Exactly. There you go.
promise.
Yeah, I would not go that far with it. I do agree that the beginning and the middle are where I think the movie soars, and then the ending is just not where I wanted to land the plane, I guess. But still, it got me. They made the movie, and I'm happy that the movie got made. It's a really, I don't know, it's a pretty great experience.
Yeah, I could see it having a decent rewatch value, kind of like a Scott Pilgrim, because it's a kaleidoscope of scenes and set pieces, and I don't know. I feel like it's but not nearly as fun as Scott Pilgrim. Um,
Not nearly.
Yeah.
any
Well, I
last
Movie
mean,
thoughts?
you could almost say not nearly as fun as most of his movies,
Most of his
since
movies.
most of
No,
his
but
movies are very, very fun.
yeah, but like
movies
but Hot
movies shouldn't
Fuzz and stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
movies shouldn't be fun. They should kick you in the stomach and make you bleed.
That's
But
dumb.
yeah, I know. But
That's like
Yeah, I think there's
saying
like
food
a
shouldn't be spicy. It should only be, savory. No,
yeah,
food should be savory. Sometimes it should be sweet. Sometimes it should be spicy. Sometimes it should be bland. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve.
yeah. Uh,
yeah, there's a lot of Kafka quotes that are appropriate for his like he has one that's like, I think we ought to read only the kind of books that wound us.
Oh,
And then
interesting.
if the book we're reading doesn't wake us up with a blow to the head, what are we reading for? And then a third one, I think we oh it was oh yeah, a book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us.
Huh.
Nice.
I kind of like that last one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
So I guess I can totally see that. There's definitely something to that. Like the best movies really kind of kick you pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Even the comedies.
Some comedies, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I guess that's the one thing I would say. It doesn't surprise me completely that this might bump up to the top of the list for Matt because it's not a comedy, and comedies, let's face it, it's tough to assess them compared to a movie that's being serious, even though it's an imperfect, slightly more serious movie. But it's
Yeah.
comedies tend to be more fun than just being a great movie. There are a lot of great comedies, like movies that happen to be comedies, but yeah, but I wouldn't put Edgar Wright's movies like in the top echelon of comedies. Like I think Hot Fuzz is pretty damn good. Maybe top like 50, maybe top 30, 20 of comedies. But that's the thing. He makes great movies, but I wouldn't consider any of them close to like the top 50 like movies for sure. Comedies maybe like 20, 30
I would definitely put Hot Fuzz in the top 50 of comedies at least.
of comedies for sure. But
Maybe even,
movies, you know.
yeah, I don't know.
That's why I'm glad he's doing this because I feel like he might have still have like a masterpiece in him. Like he might be able to make a really great mature movie, you know, that's gonna knock it out of the park. It's possible, and using his technique and stuff, it's gonna be, you know, his own thing. So this was like a step in that direction. I felt like.
Yeah.